It's your Thursday daily delivery. I am Michael Rand. Happy to be back for another day. Hope you guys are having a great day out there today and a tremendous show. Some good news today. We don't usually have a lot of great news lately in Minnesota sports, but things couldn't have gone much better for two Minnesota teams in action last night. We'll get to that in a minute. Timberwolves at the end of the show today. Huge game tonight against Memphis. Win, and you start to feel pretty good about their chances of getting a top 6 seed. Lose, and you start to feel pretty bad about it. That's the bottom line. Chris Hines spelled that out in a piece on StarTribune.com. You can check that out, but I'll get into that a little bit more at the end of the show. Velle E. Neal III and I will do our daily delivery debate, talking about the Twins, areas of concern for the Twins, talking about the Wolves and where things have gone wrong for the Wolves, and talking about the Wild and an intriguing possibility for who they could add before the playoffs start. First, though, what I missed, like I promised, some good news today. Outcome-wise, it could not have gone much better for the Wild on Wednesday night. Drama, maybe some unnecessary drama, but only added to the narrative. They win 8-7 in overtime over San Jose without Joel Eriksson Ek and Kirill Kaprizov in the lineup. 8 goals was about a week's worth, maybe a week and a half, 4 or 5 games worth, it seemed, for the Wild lately. But with those guys back for the first time in weeks, months, as it turns out, the Wild offense was turned back to 11, or at least to 8. Eriksson Ek had 4 goals in this game, including a natural hat trick. Had 3 goals in a row uninterrupted, only by the period break between the second and the third. Staked the Wild to a significant lead. They were up 7-4 on the going nowhere San Jose Sharks in the third period. San Jose rallies to tie it 7-7 before Kaprizov gets his second goal of the game in overtime for the 8-7 winner. You might look at the score and say, hey, glad the Wild went for 2. Bold strategy. 8-7 sounds like a football score, maybe a high school football score, not a hockey score. But here we go. Those guys combining for 6 goals. We went from, are these guys ready to play? Will these guys really be ready to knock off the rust? Are they fully healthy? To 6 goals combined in their first game back, including 4 from Joel Eriksson Ek. Marc-Andre Fleury, in what might be his last home start for the Wild, was not great. 7 goals allowed, but he does get the win in this game. Just as importantly, they bank the 2 points that they desperately need at this point in the season. Just as important to that, St. Louis loses last night to Edmonton, a regulation loss when Edmonton scores with 21 seconds left in the game to win 4-3. So you get that result, means the Wild shoot up into that first wild card spot now because they're tied with St. Louis. They've got the tiebreaker over St. Louis because they have 2 more regulation wins than St. Louis. Sarah McClellan and I went through all the scenarios for that on Wednesday's podcast, talking about just where the Wild stand in terms of trying to get into that spot. So they temporarily jump past St. Louis, and they have a game in hand on St. Louis. They have 3 games left, while St. Louis only has 2. The team that's most immediately in their rear view, the one they really have to watch out for, because if they get passed by Calgary, they miss the playoffs entirely. Calgary loses in overtime last night to Anaheim. Not a good loss, not a good look. Calgary was up 3-1 in that game late before Anaheim scores twice late and gets the overtime winner. Now, of course, Calgary gets the point, but does not get 2 points. Wild now 5 up on Calgary. Calgary does have that game in hand. They've got 4 games left, but the bottom line is if the Wild win against Calgary tomorrow night in Calgary, they will clinch a playoff spot. They will probably, they wouldn't eliminate necessarily Calgary, but they would jump past enough where Calgary could not catch them in the race. They have the tiebreaker over Calgary because Calgary has like 5 fewer regulation wins. So a win in any fashion would give the Wild a playoff secure spot and would really solidify their chances of being wild card 1, which carries with it the right to play probably Vegas instead of Winnipeg. I don't know if that's a great swap. I don't know if either one of those teams is a great matchup for the Wild, but being the first wild card, being essentially the 7 seed, which was what it amounts to, would give them a little bit more breathing room. At least brings 2 teams into play now instead of just one as they try to battle for playoff positioning. So you could not have asked for a better night if you were the Wild or a Wild fan. 6 goals from the 2 guys you have been desperately missing from your lineup. You win the game, even if it's a little bit more drama than you wanted. You gave up those 3 goals in the third when it looked like you might be able to cruise. And the 2 teams that are most immediately battling by you both lost. That is a huge night for the Wild. They hadn't had a lot of great news lately, but that was some great news last night for the Wild. And speaking of a team that could use some good news, Twins win 4-0 on Wednesday night. It's kind of funny early on. They were making some base running miscues, some other things, even as they were taking a 1-0 lead. The group chat I'm in is just savaging them, just being, just getting all after them, saying, Twins this, Twins that. They're going to go, 3-159. Then, of course, they win 4-0, and maybe the tone changes a little bit. Joe Ryan was terrific in that game. They added on. That's one thing they haven't been doing really since the beginning of time, at least as I can remember. They haven't been adding on to leads that makes things more precarious. This time, they carried a 2-0 lead into the later innings. Solo home run by Matt Wallner. Solo home run by Ty France in the later innings, pushing that to 4-0, making it so that you're not white-knuckling it to the end. Didn't turn out like they needed it, but it does make the margin more comfortable, makes you not have to sweat it out, makes it so that everybody feels good about themselves. Just a crisper, much more, all-around good game. They had better defense. The starting pitching, like I said, Joe Ryan was tremendous, 7 shutout innings. You had some offense coming to life. Ty France, a couple RBIs, including the home run and a base hit to right. So, again, they're 4-8. We're not going to get too excited. They play again this afternoon. Maybe that's more of the formula, right? Like, this is how you would imagine the Twins are going to win this season. Maybe not every game a shutout, but great starting pitching, enough offense, and crisp enough play, and then the bullpen that shuts the door. Like, that's the formula. They really haven't deployed the formula more than a couple times this season. There was the game where Pablo Lopez won when he went 7 innings and they got enough offense. There was the game last night where they won 4-0. Other than that, they've had to scramble. They've got either subpar starting pitching, the defense has let them down, or even if they got decent starting pitching, they haven't hit enough. They have not been able to deploy their formula more than a couple times this season in 12 games. If they can get that formula going, and it starts with starting pitching for them, they will be in much better shape down the stretch. So maybe the start of something good. I wrote yesterday after the Wolves and Twins, talked about it yesterday too, after the Wolves and Twins blew those games on Tuesday with some amateurish play, that, hey, maybe I'm going to spark them on winning streaks. The Twins, the only team to play so far. They've won their only game since I ripped them pretty good. So we'll see. I'm not taking credit necessarily so far, but I will see if that turns out to be. Sometimes when you write about something or talk about something, it's because something is about to shift in the narrative. Maybe something's going to shift in the narrative. I don't know. We'll see. Still holding out judgment, but a good night for the Twins, a better night for the Wild. Both of those teams needed some good news. Daily delivery debate time with Velle E. Neal III, Star Tribune columnist. Velle, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
We are in studio today. Good to see you in person. Good to see your face. Good to talk to you one-on-one right across the podcast table as opposed to on the electronic StreamYard platform that we gratefully use, that we enjoy. But it's better this way. I like this way better. It's not going to change it's not going to change our mood necessarily, because things are not necessarily cheerful with our first 2 subjects, Twins and Timberwolves. We'll also get into, Velle, a wild question at the end of the debate. I'm going to pose this question to you. As of recording, the Twins are 3-8. They will play once more before this goes live, so, it's subject to slight change, although I don't think anything that's going to happen Wednesday night
in Kansas City will change a whole lot of what you might think about this. But Lavelle, every area of this team right now, maybe with the exception of how the bullpen is pitching in general, although Griffin Jacks had a bad outing, a couple bad outings, one undone by his defense, one undone by a home run ball. Bullpen ERA has been okay. Everything else on this team is called into question. What is most concerning to you? What is the worst thing about this team right now? Is it the hitting? Is it the starting pitching? Or is it the defense?
Yeah, I think you can make arguments for almost all three areas, especially in Tuesday night's game when Griffin Jacks, just came out of Florida doing PFPs, skies the ball over the first baseman's head on a throw that needs to be made and an out that needs to be converted. When you see stuff like that go on, you wonder what went into the preparation during spring training. You could be upset at the pitching staff, especially as starters, not be able to go deep into games. Although Pablo
that's different.
Was derailed by hamstring strain, but other than that, he held the Royals to 2 hits?
Yeah, he was good until he got hurt.
He was effective, Simeon pitched into the 6th inning. We still need to see a little bit better from Chris Paddock, actually a lot better, and a couple other guys too. But I got to focus on the offense just because of all the work they put in spring training about using the whole field, just putting the ball into play instead of trying to hit home runs.
Now they're not doing either.
Yeah, not trying to pull everything. We're not seeing any of that during the early part of the season. And it's got to be frustrating and aggravating to everyone to watch this team at the plate because they're definitely they're offensive on offense right now. And I'm going to focus on 2 guys in particular. Your second and your number 2 and number 3 hitters, they are destroying the top third of the batting order, and that's Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa.
Yes.
Neither one of them are hitting the ball for any power. They're not getting on base at all. Kirill tried to draw a few walks against Houston, I believe. They've got to be better, especially when Rock is putting together this lineup and he's got Matt Warner leading off so he can get his on-base plus slugging percentage up there at the top of the order, and he's drawing a couple walks. But then there's 2 speed bumps in the order. You got 2 outs when the cleanup hitter comes. Both these guys are 5-WAR players when they're going good. And you could argue that they're more than 5-WAR players when they're going good. They're both former All-Stars. I think Buck is at 30 home runs in a season. Correa's been a fine offensive shortstop. This stuff has to stop. The offense is their fault. It's on their shoulders. They need to step up and start carrying this team. Carlos Correa's Twins career needs to start looking more like his Astros career. Sooner the better.
I agree. I think the offense has been abysmal there as of recording, second to last in the majors in OPS 577, batting average 201. That's just not getting it done. I will say, though, the starting pitching has the worst starting pitching ERA of any team in the league right now, 6.26 as of recording right now. That is worst in the worst in the majors. They have 1 win from a starter all year. I believe that was Pablo in his second start of the season. I think that's more concerning to me than the offense. I didn't think they were going to be a very good hitting team this year. I expected them to have a good 1 through 5 in the rotation. You expect them to be better in that regard and to have the worst ERA among starters. Again, just 11 games in, some extenuating circumstances, 2 awful starts by Ober and Paddock inflate those numbers, but they're part of the record. They're part of the official record. That, to me, is the more kind of damaging and concerning part, because if they were pitching better, I think the offensive woes would be less magnified, Correa and Buxton struggles notwithstanding.
Well, I'm going to point out here that the Twins were 10th in scoring in MLB last year. Many of the cast of characters back from that squad. And that was 10th in the league despite getting off to a horrible start. Yeah. They didn't start hitting until like June 13th, June 14th last year. And that's with them nosediving in September. So I thought at least these guys would come back better off because of the experience. Definitely are healthier. There's no concerns about any injuries with Buxton or
Royce
Correa.
Lewis is hurt, though.
Royce is out. Yeah,
yes,
Royce is out.
But in the lineup, yes.
Yeah. But the 2 big guns in the lineup, they're healthy and they're not hitting. So that's what surprises me more because I thought they would still be a top 10 hitting offense. I was confident enough to write story during spring training. I think they're going to swing the sticks. And KF fans, Dan Cole, the common man, has not let me forget that.
Are you in the preposterous statement tournament?
Yeah, I'm probably in the lead for the next preposterous statement tournament. But I still think they're going to come around and hit, but what I'm seeing out there is abysmal. It's just bad, man. The team could hit a bull in the rear end with a snow shovel right now. Are
they off to a bad start, or are they a bad team?
I'm going to say off to a bad start. If we go into mid-May like this, toward the end of May like this, then you may have to wonder if it's a bad team, because things didn't look good either, and then they turned things around a year ago. So it can happen. And plus, these seasons have 3 segments.
Yeah.
You got 2 months to figure out what you got. You got 2 months to figure out adjustments, and you got 2 months to go for the postseason. So we're not even at the end of the figure out what you got stage. So I'm going to reserve judgment. It's easy to be upset. Fans have every right to be upset at how this team is playing, pitching, and fielding and hitting. They definitely do. But you also have to realize that we're still just in the 3rd week of the regular season, 2nd week of the season, I believe.
Yeah,
so
11 games in as of recording.
We can't all of a sudden throw the team under the bus or say that the season's over.
Fielding miscues have been a concern, not just the errors, but some misplays. They just don't look like they're not playing good baseball generally, and that's the eye test, right? That's the eye test to me. Well, it's not good baseball.
I thought they would be slightly above average defensively. That was a concern of mine, and that one of my first columns was about the defense. And Rocco told me when I got down there, you're going to see a lot of Harrison Bader and Willie Castro out there. It's going to happen pretty soon once the season starts, because those are historically reliable defensive players. And look what's happened. Bader and Castro have been out there, but they've also been able to hit a little bit.
Yeah, they can't get their bats out of the lineup. They've been 2 of their best hitters.
Yeah, no doubt. But, Miranda got benched a little bit because of his defensive play. We saw Mickey Gasper, why he's been in the minors for 19 years. Who else? We at first base, Edouard Julien. Julian's been playing basketball at second base again, about dribbling grounders off his glove.
They need like 3 Willie Castros.
Yeah, no doubt. So I was concerned that the defense would barely be better than average, and it's actually been slightly below average, I would say.
I think so. I mean, the outfield defense should be pretty good, right? Especially if you play Buxton and Bader, and if you put Kiersey in late inning situations, if you ever have a lead, you feel pretty good about that. But the infield defense is suspect right now, outside of Correa at shortstop.
Yeah, and Royce Lewis is still learning how to play third base, right. Man. It's not like he's a wizard there. So I've been arguing with a friend on Twitter about Brooks Lee, because he's like, well, whenever he's healthy, they got to call him up. I was like, he hasn't played since March 17th. He needs at-bats. And it wasn't like he was hitting last year before he got hurt.
No.
So the Twins want to see him have some success at the plate. But the argument was that, well, he's a way better player than Mickey bleeping Gasper.
Well,
and don't need him because
I don't disagree with that.
He's sure-handed and he has a truer arm.
Yes.
And he will be an asset defensively. And that may encourage the Twins to calm up a little bit early. But I think they want to see him hit a little bit at St. Paul. And if I can't remember, it's batting left-handed is tougher for him than right-handed, I think.
I think so.
So we got to see some progress that way as well.
Yeah.
So, they could use his glove, definitely.
They could use a lot of things right now. Timberwolves blew a 24-point fourth-quarter lead in a loss to the Bucks on Tuesday, Lavelle. Big one Thursday night now against Memphis. I was pretty hot on Wednesday's show. I called that game an embarrassment. I didn't think they were upset enough about their performance, making the point that, you can say on to the next one while still being pissed off about how you played in that one. They just kind of they turned the page so fast on blowing such a big lead. This team has been so up and down. Where are you at with them right now, and how did you view that loss to Milwaukee and how it unfolded?
Well, we sat here last week or 2 weeks ago. I think it was last week, and we both speculated about the potential of them. Maybe it wasn't you. Maybe it was on another show about the potential of them going 5-0, running the table, and possibly getting into the third seed in the West.
Even the 4 was very likely before they blew that lead, at least.
And I did say, just when you think the Wolves have things figured out, man, they can something could happen and change your opinion. And yesterday was one of those opinion changers Rangers.
Yes,
because
I agree.
They got a hustle. They got to outrun. They got to out execute it. They couldn't stop that ridiculous run.
They couldn't solve a zone defense, like something that they've all seen a million times. Maybe not lately, but that was the embarrassing part.
Forcing turnovers. It was just awful basketball, and maybe they don't want any scar tissue to set in, and maybe that's why they immediately are saying next game. Although Anthony Edwards calls this Memphis game a must-win game. He says must win. And he's right, but they just need to show their type of basketball, man, because it's going to be a quick exit in the postseason if they have that type of effort and have that type of give-up once you can't figure out a way to stop an opponent. So that's what bothered me the most about that game yesterday. It was just how everything went haywire, and they seemed like they were accepting it by the end of the game. That way things were headed. Now it's just you can't do that. You can't do that. You should be surging and peaking at the right time, and you should be energized by the fact that you have a chance of being the 3 seed. And we didn't see any of that against Milwaukee.
Yes, the inability to turn the tide when things were going haywire makes me very concerned about their playoff prospects this year.
Or just the killer death blow and put your foot in their throat when we're up by 24.
That's what I said. They should have been 3 or 4 minutes away from Josh Minot and Terrence Shannon and everybody else playing for 5 minutes of that game.
Yeah, just because Duke, blew a late lead in the semifinal and Houston blew a late lead in the championship game doesn't mean the Wolves have to do the same thing.
And I get it. I get that at this point in the season there's a need to turn the page quickly. You can't dwell on that. It's not going to do you any good, but in the immediate post-game aftermath, the stuff coming out of the locker room, and I wasn't there, but I was watching all the clips, all the stuff they posted on YouTube, following Chris Hine on Twitter, and him kind of like gathering the tone of it. It just didn't seem like they were bothered by a 24-point collapse in a game that had a lot of significance to them. Even if it was not a conference game, you win that game, you are in the driver's seat now, and instead they're staring at the play-in now at this point. Yeah,
and that still looms as a possibility, and they shouldn't want that. But you just want to be playing well too, because you already know that the Western Conference playoffs anything could happen with these teams just because of how they're all bunched up. So you don't want to become limping in or sputtering into the postseason. So the onus is on the I almost said Vikings, on the Wolves here to find a groove and play some assertive basketball and stay aggressive and come back from deficits and put your foot on the throat of opponents when you have the opportunity to.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm into they're going to go one and out now. They're not going to get past the first round now. And like a week ago, to your point, I was like, hey, this team could be a tough out, could be frisky. We'll see who they end up. And they were in a good spot to get a home playoff series, and now everything has been called in doubt just because of one bad quarter.
I mean, watching Gobert for the last 3 weeks has been awesome. He's been running the floor. He's been heading to the basket, finishing at the rim, claiming every rebound. Mike Conley was shooting over 40% from 3 over the last 3 weeks after looking like he was 57 years old the first month of the season. I was liking a lot what I was seeing from the Wolves.
Last question, Lavelle. Zeev Buium probably going to turn pro, go with the Wild right after the Frozen Four is done with Denver. Highly regarded prospect, defenseman. Should he be the next Brock Faber and jump right in, burn that year of his contract, or should they take the long view with him?
I think that merit needs to be recognized, and based on history, we see how some of these guys come out of college and they're able to make an impact on their teams. Sam Renzel, a former Gopher defenseman who's a two-way player like Buium, or whatever you pronounce it.
Buium.
He's already on with the number one defensive pairing for the Blackhawks after being signed and summoned from.
That's the Blackhawks, Lavelle.
Well, still, he's
I'm just digging. I'm just messing with you.
I don't know if Buium's going to be another Faber. He's definitely a different type of defenseman than Fabes. But he's incredibly talented. I talked to Faber about him yesterday. Faber was gushing about him. And plus, Faber can help him with the transition, having gone through it himself just a couple years ago. So, and I look at the depth on that the Wild's defensive pecking order here,
Yeah.
and with Middleton out, they probably could use everything they can get. And here's the thing, too. For a team that we've seen struggle to score, and yes, they could be close to getting both Eriksson, Ek, and Kaprizov back. Having a guy who could score from the back end is not a bad thing. And so I think I would take the chance on burning that year and signing him. And plus, I think it would cost him a little bit more if they waited a year to sign him. I think the price would probably go up a little bit, too. So you might as well get it going now, baby, and get him assimilated into the program and throw him out there, see what he can do.
My problem with it is I don't think they're going anywhere this year. When they did it with Faber 2 years ago, I think they thought they had a chance to win in the playoffs. That team was like 100 points, 103 points in the regular season. They played Dallas in the first round. Those were two comparable teams, and they actually had a 2-1 series lead in that series before Dallas took the last three. I don't think this Wild team is worthy of doing that. Now, maybe it's just a practical matter. Maybe if he wants it, you got to do it no matter what. But I don't think this team has any chance of getting out of the first round of the playoffs because they're almost certainly going to play either Vegas or Winnipeg, if they even get in at all. And that's still in question based on, how they finish the season. They got that big game Friday in Calgary. I think the scenarios are a little different, players a little different. So if there's any way to massage this and keep him in that realm, I would love to see not burning that year right now.
Well, I think the same thing holds true now than it did at the start of the season, and it did at the moment that Kaprizov and Ek were injured. Was that the key to this team taking another step forward was the continuing development of Matt Boldy and Marco Rossi. I was optimistic about it at the beginning of the year, the way they started. I don't know if Kaprizov and Ek being out was just too much of a burden because I think Boldy really was a letdown for about a month there when they needed him the most. Rossi stepped up and scored a goal here and there.
He had the big overtime game.
Yeah, I admire him. He's kind of a smallish guy for a center. He gets in there and figures out ways and avenues to score. And I think that still holds true now. For them to cause an upset or make things interesting in the postseason, it's the younger younger pros like Boldy and Rossi to step up and play. I want to point out one more other thing too is that after the season, talking to Billy G, he brought up a couple of guys that he needed to see more from Gaudreau and more from Johansson. And guess what? He's gotten more from both those guys. I think Gaudreau's about to double his output from a year ago.
He's having a very good 18 goals right now.
So once again, if Boldy would celebrate the fact that Kaprizov and Ek are back or are close to being back, Boldy and Rossi have got to step up. And I will put Zeev Buium into that mix as well to see if he can help the cause here.
I don't know. I'm not sold on there being. If it was anybody else, aside from Vegas or Winnipeg, who are combined 6-0 against the Wild this year and have outscored them 23-6, I would feel a little bit better about it. But maybe you just got to put your best players in there and hope for the best. And Buium certainly could be one of their top 6, one of their top 4 defensemen immediately. Certainly got to feel good about his future anyway. And the future of the Wild is brighter than I think the present. You get off of those buyouts finally next year, the Parisi Suter buyouts. I mean, there's just like a tiny bit of money that hits the cap, but not this like 13, 15 million. It's like a million or two. All of a sudden, more money to spend on players next year. Some of it could go straight to a Kaprizov extension if he wants to be here. But you can see the future looking better than the present.
That injury is going to play into that now.
It is.
If there's so many rumblings about it being chronic, that affects the dollars. And Kaprizov, maybe he might not be in a position where he can be picky on this. He may have to take what he can get. I'll throw out a name just to get everybody excited about a free agent.
Yeah.
Brock Besser.
We love our one of us. We always love our one of us, right?
And apparently, I think he's with Vancouver. Is it Vancouver?
I think that's right.
And apparently, he is not liking the contract offers they've been sending him. So he may be ready to come back to the crib.
Okay. Well, we'll see. They'll have some opportunities. He is a Burnsville native, but obviously played all over the place. So. That's a name to watch. Lavelle, appreciate it as always. I don't know if we'll be in studio next week, but maybe we will. Fun to see you, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good, man.
Great stuff from Lavelle. You can read his column on Buium and Faber at StarTribune.com. good idea on that one. Maybe my tune has to change a little bit. Maybe if they're getting 6 goals every night from Kaprizov and Ek, they are a playoff threat and they should put all hands on deck. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where that gets them. Maybe that was just a one-off against a bad team, but they're definitely more dangerous with those guys in the lineup. Nobody would debate that. And hey, you saw their impact right away. It's not going to be 6 goals every night, but you saw their impact returning to the lineup, giving them a spark, putting them in much better shape going forward. Speaking of that, in the cooler, Timberwolves tonight at Memphis. This one is huge. Chris Hines set it up on StarTribune.com. The loss, to Milwaukee, that's in the rear view, but it is reminiscent of those playoff losses to Memphis 3 years ago, kind of putting that back in the backs of their minds. They have to wash all those away, beat a Memphis team that is ready to be beaten, to be defeated. They are a team that went through a coaching change already this season, late in the year. If the Wolves can get their game together, get their act together, this is a team they can beat, feel good about themselves, and then Memphis still has to play Denver. Golden State still has to play the Clippers. Opportunity for the Wolves if they win this game, because their last 2 games are home games against Brooklyn and Utah. They would feel great about themselves even after that Milwaukee game if they win tonight. Part of that is because while they didn't get a ton of great results or great help last night, Golden State blew a double-digit lead at home to San Antonio and lost that game. I could not believe the final score when I woke up. 114-111 for San Antonio. So Golden State put itself in a much more precarious playoff spot by dropping that game. Like I said, they still play the Clippers at the end of the season. That's the last regular season game for both of those teams. That could benefit the Wolves because someone's going to lose that game. Someone's going to lose the Memphis-Denver game, so they're going to be making up ground on somebody at least in those 2 games. It all comes down to, though, can they get this one tonight? Still a path for them to get into the top 6 if they lose tonight, but a much, much clearer path if they win tonight. So we'll see if they can get it done. All hands on deck. That is the game I'm watching tonight. No doubt about it. That will do it for me today. Got to go run a bunch of errands today, getting some softball equipment, gearing up to coach soccer. What is going on here? What has become of me? I'm going to be a youth soccer coach. Any tips? Any condolences? 5-year-old soccer. They said they couldn't have a team unless somebody else stepped up to be a coach. I was like, oh man, I don't have the time. I don't necessarily want to do this. I'm not a soccer guy in terms of I've never played it organized. I like soccer. I've played it just for fun, but I'm not I'm not embedded in the game. But it's 5-year-olds. I can coach a 5-year-old team. I can help coach a 5-year-old team at least. So that is what I'm going to be doing starting in May. I will welcome all of your tips, any of your pity, any of your oh man, these are the best days of your life advice. So we'll probably talk more about that too once it actually starts. Thanks for joining me on today's show. Ben Gessling with Vikings chatter coming up on Friday's show. Until then, I'm Michael Rand. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Back at it again tomorrow.